How's it going, y'all? Sarai the Samurai here, and this is the latest video in my little Nuzlocke series of hardcore Nuzlocking every single Pokemon generation. Now, I only started recently posting these Nuzlocks after my Black and White 2 hardcore Nuzlocke, and I thought I'd do something a little different. Kind of go with a narration part for the video, as well as kind of like showing you highlights. So this will be a little bit of an experimental video for me. Let me just start off by saying that Pokemon Ultra Sun is one of my least favorite games in terms of replayability, and this Nuzlocke took me 12 attempts. Yeah, I had a lot of issues with the early game, but as you can see, I started to get a pattern down. I started getting better acquainted with the game itself. So yeah, I basically wanted to show you guys what I learned and how this has basically helped me grow as a Nuzlocker in my own right. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get this started. So I started the game and I decided to choose Litten because it is a lit Pokemon. Also, I am very limited in fire types, so yeah, I choose Litten as my encounter. Then I battle a couple of wild encounters, and then I battle How. Then after beating How's Rowlet, I level up 2 levels. I am finally able to get some Pokeballs, and I can finally catch a Pokemon. I skipped the first encounter because it's a guaranteed Grubbin. So then the second Pokemon I run to, which is a Yungoos, I catch, and of course, I name it Trump. Then comes the second battle with How, which goes by pretty quickly. Then the next Pokemon I'm able to catch is a Wingull, which actually ends up causing a little bit of issues. I have to paralyze it with Litten before I can catch it. But we end up catching it. And then, man, we get definitely the most annoying thing in the game, the Rotom Dex. And then after that, we get Zora in the trainer school, which honestly is a really, really solid encounter. Now we're gonna fight the trainer school teacher, which I have lost to this lady a couple of times, as you saw in the intro. So my main strat was to just start to weaken Popplio's defense, and then take it out with Wingull, which I end up doing without losing anyone. Then after catching Magnemite, I battle Ilima, which turns out to be a little bit of an issue. I paralyze the Yungoos, and the next turn he heals it, which is so stupid. And I miss my Supersonic. So then I go for the paralysis again, but Yungoos almost kills me. But then my Oranberry activates, and then Yungoos is healed. So then I get pretty lucky. He gets kind of selfish and goes for Leer, and I'm able to take out Yungoos. Then I switch out Magnemite. So the goal here is to use Growl as many times as possible to weaken Smeargle's attack. After taking as much damage as possible, I switch Wingull out and I go Yungoos. Ha! Psych! I actually go Myzora. Then I actually start to Leer. Start going for the defense. And there's that dangerous water gun. After a quick pursuit that does half, I switch Zora out for Yungoos, and Yungoos is able to finish it off. Alright, so after putting on a repel, I go to the berries, hoping to find Crabrawler, and I do find Crabrawler, therefore catching it, and in my opinion, sealing the first trial's fate. Then I catch Ghastly, and then Zubat. Now, it's time to start the first trial. After taking out some Yungooses, I pick up the TM for Brick Break, beat up some Team Skullgoons, and destroy this Gumshoe with a Brick Break. And now it's time to fight the big bad Gumshoe. One Brick Break takes it down to below half. Then Gumshoe lowers my speed, and then calls for a Yungoos. Now, I am slower than both Yungoos and Gumshoe, so they are able to get a hit off me, My Citrus Berry activates, so I get some health back, and Crabrawler knocks out Gumshoe, and then Yungoos gets knocked out, therefore earning me the normal EMZ that I will never use, because Z moves are banned. After catching my second bat, we catch Hawlucha, and then I get Metapod, which I definitely really love because Compound Ice Butterfree and Thief is a really, really good combination. Then I run into a Psyduck, and it's dead. So now it is time for the Kahana Hala. He sends out Machop, and I go for Butterfree. I go for a Confusion, which does a little over half, which kind of disappoints me, but then next move I go for a Gust, and Machop lives on 1. And here's the scary thing, Revenge doesn't do anything. So then Butterfree finishes Machop off with a Gust. Magahita comes out and leads with a Fake Out. So I take this opportunity for my next turn to Roost, and Magahita uses Arm Thrust. So then I go for Confusion, that does over half, and it turned out to be a critical hit, which honestly that crit really did help. After a couple more turns, I take Magahita out, and out comes Crabrawler. I Poison Powder the Crabrawler, and Crabrawler uses Pursuit. Then Hala uses the full heal, which it's going to be a pretty common theme in this game, and it's really annoying, and I use Roost. I just go for the Gust, and Crabrawler activates his Z move. All Out Pummeling does nothing to Penelope, and the damage it did do was a crit. Dang, Butterfree is really bulky. So then I finish Crabrawler off with a Gust. And that is a sweep with Butterfree. I backtrack, catch Roggenrola, catch Spinda, and then it's time to Manti Surf to the next island. After getting to the next island, I catch a Mudbray and a Lillipup, and I pick up my Eevee Egg, and I catch a Pikipek. So now is my first battle with Gladion, and essentially I just take this time to do a couple of Hone Claws, Roost, and then I just go for the kill with everyone. Now I can start the trial, but I'm actually not going to start the trial. I'm going to back out because I can actually use the pager right away. So I get me my Poliwag, which Poliwag is going to be a very important Pokemon throughout this whole run. Then I backtrack to the first island and catch Rattata and Tentacool. Now, I do start the trial. I take out the first couple of Wishy-Washis, and it's time for Arachnoid. I lead with Butterfree and Poison Powder the Arachnoid. Bubble does a little under half, so I send out Polyswag because I know both Arachnoid and Dewpider is going to Bubble. So essentially I just swap back and forth between Poliwhirl and Hawlucha. So after a little bit of time of switching, Arachnoid goes down to Poison. I put Dewpider to sleep and take Dewpider out with Zubat, thus completing the trial. Now I can finally fish, getting me Magikarp and Wishy-Washy. I end up finding and catching a Mouselandit, which even though it's a male, will come in handy, and I find Oricorio. So then the trial starts. So to save some time, I'll just let you know, I did over level in the gauntlet. I wasn't paying attention, and with gauntlets, I kind of give myself a little bit of grace, but I wanted to try to win without Wishy-Washy, which might have just been a really big mistake, because then I end up losing my Mudbray. I try and play around it a little bit. I call Gyarados out. I do bounce, and I paralyze the Marowak. But Noob ends up getting poisoned. I know that the next move Marowak's going to use is Hex, so I swap my Gyarados out for Golbat, which it tanks pretty well. Batgirl gets tormented, but I wing attack the Slazzle. This is probably where I should have swapped, but Flame Burst ends up taking out Batgirl. So then I decide, you know what? I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to go Wishy-Washy, and I take out the Slazzle, and then slowly but surely take Marowak out, finishing off this trial. Then I hatched Eevee, caught Kecleon, and caught Wormpod. Then I got ready to start this grass trial. Lurantis is pretty easy, leading with Hawlucha. All my big strategy was I started setting up Hone Claws, and then my idea was every time it would call a Pokemon for help, I would just kill that Pokemon. So then, after killing the Kecleon, I try and go for an Aerolace, which barely kills. Comfey comes out, I Roost after taking some pretty decent damage from the Solar Blade. And after a little bit of work, I take out Comfy, and then I take out Lurantis, finishing up this tedious grass trial. I catch Alolan Diglett, and I catch Phantom. I catch Corsola, I backtrack and catch a Steenie, who I always call Legs for Days, and I catch Stuffle. Now, it's time for the second grand trial and to fight the Kahuna, Olivia, who leads with Anorith, and I lead with my Hawlucha. The plan is simple. Hone Claws, Roost, Hone Claws, and Roost. Then Sweep. Brick Break 1 takes Anorith out in one hit. Brick Break 2 takes Lilip out in one hit. And out comes Lycanrock. I Roost because I'm afraid Lycanrock is faster. But Hawlucha actually ends up being faster. And the Z move, being resisted, does a little under half. But with me being faster, it didn't matter. This grand trial was pretty easy overall though. So I catch Staryu before heading over to the After Paradise. Then after Paradise, I catch Masquerain, Ariados, Skarmory, and Cleffa. I waste no time going for the totem Pokemon. I lead with John the Slandits. The plan is to poison with Toxic. I go for Toxic, Togedemaru goes for Spike Shield. Skarmory comes out, and the next turn, Zip Zap misses because, thanks in part to the Lax Incense I attached, I poison Togedemaru. I decide to keep John in. Zip Zap does a bit of damage, but I get the poison off. Willing to sacrifice John, but Skarmory goes for Tailwind, and John is living. So I go for Protect to waste a turn, and to increase the poison damage on both Togedemaru and Skarmory. Then I send out Dugtrio, who resists Zip Zap, and then I just basically stall. I switch out into my Magneton. Iron Head doesn't do any damage. Skarmory uses Tailwind again, and Togedemaru is taken out from the poison, and Skarmory comes very, very close. But Magneton finishes Skarmory off with a Shockwave. And like that, the electric trial is completed. So now it is time for the very first fight with Guzma. He of course sends out his Golisopod, and I send out my Polyswag. I lead with Protect because Guzma is guaranteed to use First Impression. Then I use Bulldoze to start to lower some speed and get some damage off. Guzma uses Razor Shell, but Water Absorb comes in clutch. Then after a little bit of PP sawing with Sucker Punch, I take Guzma down to yellow, activating his emergency exit ability, and out comes Masquerain. Now obviously I'm switching, and I go for Solid my Skarmory. Air Slash does quite a bit of damage. Luckily I have leftovers. After another Air Slash, Skarmory flinches and I'm forced to switch out. So then I go into my Magneton. Air Slash does a little less damage there, but then Bug Buzz hits hard, almost taking Magneton out with a crit. I switch out to Incineroar. He doesn't take Bug Buzz that well, so then I switch right back into Solid because I got too afraid that Incineroar couldn't take Masquerain out in one hit. After one Aerial Ace from Skarmory, Masquerain takes Skarmory out with an Air Slash, and down goes Solid. I send Gyarados out, and Gyarados finishes Masquerain off. Then after a little while, Polyswag finishes off Golisopod. Then my next encounter is Torkoal. Then I run into an Elekid. After failing to catch Elekid with a Quick Ball, it calls for a Happiny. I end up taking out the Elekid and catching Happiny. Then I trade my Phantom for an NPC's Phantom. After that, I catch Vulpix, and I catch Snorunt. Then it's time for the Ghost Trial. Umbreon handles both Ghastly and Haunter, and Incineroar handles Gengar. Then it's time for the Totem Mimikyu. I send Masquerain out, and essentially my plan is to get Intimidate off. After Play Rough does quite a bit of damage, I use Thief to destroy the disguise and take the Lumberry. Bayonet comes out and I switch into Gyarados. Intimidating Mimikyu again. Play Rough is slowly starting to dwindle down. Bayonet uses Will-O-Wisp, lowering Gyarados' attack. I go back to Masquerain, get another Intimidate off. Masquerain's able to live a Play Rough, and Bayonet uses Screech. I switch Masquerain out again, go into Noob, activate another Intimidate. Bayonet uses Feint Attack, and then I send Umbreon out. Taking the Play Rough, Umbreon gets cursed, forcing me to switch Umbreon out. I go back into Gyarados to get another Intimidate off. Mimikyu's Play Rough is doing little damage now. I send Slanted out. He takes the Play Rough. Bayonet uses Screech, lowering John's defense. Then after a Shadow Claw, I Toxic Mimikyu. Bayonet uses Feint Attack, taking John down pretty low. Then I use Protect. I switch John out and go for my Magna Zone. Shadow Claw hits very little, and then Bayonet uses Screech, lowering my defense down. But then something tragic happens. Shadow Claw hits for a crit, and then Bayonet finishes Magna Zone off with Feint Attack. That really sucked. Then I send out Incineroar, Protect, but then Bayonet uses Curse, taking itself out, and in turn sending out Jellicent. I switch Incineroar out, and I basically just sack my Masquerade. Mimikyu goes down to Poison. Then after a little while, I send Umbreon out to finish Jellicent. Not a pretty match, but I do beat the Ghost Trial. Then I catch Shuppet, Krokorok, Frillish, Slowpoke, and Condi. I open Pokelago up, and I gain a Pincers and encounter. Then I catch Scraggy. Then after dealing with Team Skull, I battle Nanu, who sends out Sableye. And I send out my Blissey. I lead with the Protect to eliminate Fake Out, and after getting hit with the Power Gem, I start to Charge Beam. This goes on for a little bit, and I lose Charge Beam PP. Then I Sweet Kiss, and Sableye takes itself out. Krokorok comes out, I Protect to scout Krokorok's move. He uses Earthquake, and then I swap Blissey out for Gyarados. Krokorok uses Swagger, which is pretty unlucky. And then after a crunch, Gyarados breaks through the confusion and Aqua Tails. Then comes Alolan Persian. I swap because I know Persian has Power Gem. Persian uses Fake Out, Persian Power Gems, and Muck uses Poison Fang. After another Power Gem, Muck uses Poison Fang and Poison Touch activates. This goes on for a little bit, but I am able to take Persian out with a Poison Fang, and I beat Nanu, finishing up this island's grand trial. Now, it's time for the final Guzma fight. I use the strat I used in the previous fight, and after Emergency Exit activates, Vikavolt comes out. I switch Polyswag out, and I send out Best Girl, my Clefable. After taking a Thunderbolt that does about half, I send Torkoal out, expecting the Flash Cannon. Vikavolt does do Flash Cannon, and then next turn, I send Incineroar out to take a Thunderbolt. Incineroar is able to take Vikavolt out with Flamethrower boosted by Charcoal and the Sun. Then comes Pinsir. I switch right back into Polyswag, expecting a Stone Edge. Then I switch Polyswag out for Best Girl. Then I use Moonlight to get some health back after taking some big damage from a Stone Edge. The next Stone Edge misses, and I use Moonlight again. Stone Edge misses again, and then I use Moonblast, taking Pinsir to below half. After the next Stone Edge hits, Clefable takes Pinsir out with Moonblast. Then comes the scary Masquerain. Masquerain uses Air Slash, and Best Girl uses Moonblast. And that Moonblast crits and almost taking Masquerain out. Then I switch into Muck, who takes an Air Slash very well. After some decent damage from Bug Buzz, Trash is able to take Masquerain out with a Crunch. And then Golisopod comes back. I switch into my Gyarados to take the first impression, and then I switch right back into Polyswag. After a little while, Polyswag is able to take Golisopod out. Now it's time for Step On Me Mommy Lusamine. She sends out Clefable, and I lead with Trash. After taking a little bit of damage from Hyper Voice, I start to Minimize. The plan is to max out my Minimize. Charm misses, and I go for my second Minimize. After the next Hyper Voice connects, I go for one more Minimize, maxing out my evasiveness. The next Hyper Voice misses, and then I Toxic. I know Magic Guard is a thing, but that's okay. After taking some decent damage from Moonblast, I start to Venom Drench, which weakens its attack, special attack, and speed. Then being faster, I start to Venom Drench again. Moonblast hits, but for a lot less. After another Venom Drench, Moonblast misses. I keep this strat up, slowly gaining health. And then after a little while, I Poison Fang, taking Clefable out with a crit. Next comes Milotic. I start off with using Toxic, and it's the same Venom Drench strategy. After a little while, I use Poison Fang, taking Milotic's health low enough to where Poison will take it out at the end of the turn. Then it's the same strat with Beware. In fact, it's pretty much the same strat for the rest of Lusamine's team. Because of Muck maximizing its evasiveness with Minimize, and because of Toxic and Venom Drench, Trash was in no real danger this battle. Then I catch a Gramble, a Furfrou, a Wailmer, Delmise, and Carbink. Then it's time to start the trial. Ninetales takes out Jangmo and Hakamo pretty easily, and then it's time for the big bad trial. I lead with Rocky, my Carbink. Carbink is able to take a Drain Punch, and I Toxic Komao. Then Noivern is sent out. Drain Punch crits, and Noivern's able to finish off Carbink with an Air Slash, which honestly is very unfortunate. Then I send Torkoal out. After taking a Dragon Claw and a Screech, I use Amnesia. And I start to realize that this was a dumb idea. I use Protect to kind of waste the turn. Then I go into Clefable. Dragon Claw doesn't affect, but Boom Burst does do some decent damage. Then I switch into Ariados, expecting the Poison Jab. Poison Jab does hit, and Noivern screeches. Poison takes Komao out, and then I switch into Ninetales. Air Slash does a little bit of damage, but after a Screech, Ninetales is able to take Noivern out with an Ice Beam. And that is the Dragon Trial. Then it is Ultra Necrozma time. I lead with my Rattata. After tanking the hit with the Focus Sash, I use Endeavor. And then Quick Attack. Yeah, it's a little cheap, but what can I say? It was too good to pass up. Then it's time for the last trial, and that starts with battling Mina. Mina sends out Mawile, and I send out Torkoal. Mawile goes down to 1 Flamethrower. Then Gramble comes out. Gramble Earthquakes, which I did not expect, but Torkoal tanks it. After almost taking Gramble out with the Flamethrower, I switch Torkoal into Gyarados. And Gramble uses Stone Edge, but I'm able to take Gramble out with Gyarados' Bounce. Then comes Riombi. Riombi Dazzling Gleams Gyarados, but almost taking it out, but then I bounce. Riombi uses its Z-move, but it fails. And then Gyarados misses bounce. I decide to switch into Oricorio. After a close call, Air Slash almost takes Riombi out, but then I switch into Muck, and Muck finishes the job. Then I get the Pink Petal. I get the Petal from Malima. Malo does take out my Incineroar, but I do beat her without losing anyone else. Then I lose Gyarados to Kawe after Flame Body activates and Burn kills my Gyarados. But then I easily get the last 2 petals. But then it's time for the Totem Riombi. I send Torkoal out. Bug Buzz hits pretty hard, but then I Flamethrower. Riombi does have a berry that weakens the power of Fire-type moves, so it doesn't kill. Torkoal takes another strong Bug Buzz, and Blissey sets up Reflect. But after a crit Flamethrower, Riombi goes down. So then I switch Torkoal out for Dugtrio, and after an Iron Head, Blissey goes down. I beat the last trial. Now it is time to fight the last Grand Trial Kahuna, Hapu. Hapu sends out Golurk, and I send out Whimsicott. Energy Ball almost takes it out, and then Golurk sets up Stealth Rocks. Energy Ball does take Golurk out, and then Mudsdale comes out. I switch Whimsicott into Pelipper, and Mudsdale uses Heavy Slam. Then I use Roost, and then Mudsdale uses Payback. I use Water Pulse and confuse the Mudsdale. And then Mudsdale hits himself. After a Hyper Potion, Pelipper uses Water Pulse again, almost taking it out, and then Pelipper finishes Mudsdale off. Next comes Flygon, then I switch into Ninetales. After taking a huge Earth Power, Ice Beam takes Flygon out. Then comes Gastrodon, and I switch Ninetales out for Whimsicott. After taking a Muddy Water, Whimsicott takes Gastrodon out with 1 Giga Drain. And I beat Hapu, finishing the last Grand Trial. After a suggestion to get a encounter in the wormhole, I run into a Barbicle. After a Quick Ball fails, 1 crit Stone Edge kills Whimsicott. That sucked. I ended up just throwing my Master Ball at it. I was so mad, but he does come into play later. Then it's my last Gladion fight. He sends out Crobat, and I send out Boldor. Or as I say, I set up a Stealth Rock after taking a Cross Poison. After another Cross Poison, I Rock Slide, almost taking Crobat out. Gladion withdraws and goes into Lucario. Oh, no, that's Zora. Then I go into Noivern, and Noivern takes a Grass Knot. After an Air Cutter, Gladion uses a Z move, almost taking Noivern out. But then I Roost, and Night Days takes me right back to where I was. Then I just kill it with a Wing Attack. Then after Sylvaney comes out, I switch into Hoodlum. And then after a Crush Claw, I Scary Face. And then I Scary Face again. And then Sylvaney uses Multi-Attack. Then I switch into Speed Check, and I take another Crush Claw. That almost takes me out. So then I go into Torkoal. Drought comes into play, and then I switch into Oricorio. After taking a Multi-Attack, the Electric Revelation Dance takes Sylvaney out. Gladion sends Crobat out, but then the Stealth Rocks take Crobat out. Then comes Lucario. After taking a Aura Sphere, Revelation Dance takes Lucario down to half. After tanking another Aura Sphere, Revelation Dance takes Lucario out, in turn beating Gladion. Everything goes smoothly up until I lose Ninetales to a Tyranitar. Now though, it's time for the very first Elite Four battle, and boy was Kahili insanely challenging. She leads with Braviary, and I lead with Barbarical. After a Brave Bird, Rock Slide almost takes Braviary out. Then Braviary gets healed from a full restore, and I use Razor Shell. After another Brave Bird, Braviary goes down to a Rock Slide. Then Honolucha comes out. I swap into Best Girl and take a Flying Press. Then Honolucha Poison Jabs, which definitely surprised me, and then I Moonblast, taking Honolucha out. Then Mandibuzz comes in. I switch Clefable into Sally, and Sally totally tanks a Brave Bird. After another Brave Bird, Flamethrower takes it below half. One more Brave Bird hits, and Flamethrower takes it out. Now Toucannon comes out. Here I send Potpourri to get an Intimidate off, and Toucannon almost takes Crocodile out, even with the Intimidate. Then I send out Muck, and Toucannon uses Beak Blast. Now, after missing a Screech, I start to set up Minimize. I set up my second Minimize while Beak Blast is getting loaded, and Beak Blast still hits. She goes for another Beak Blast, and I do my third Minimize. This time, Beak Blast does miss. She loads another one, and I Toxic. That's right, I'm going for the Toxic Venom Drench strat. Beak Blast misses again, but after a full restore, Venom Drench fails. So I go for Toxic again, and Beak Blast hits, taking me to 68 health. Luckily, Black Sludge brings me up a little bit. She goes for Beak Blast again, and Venom Drench connects. Luckily, the Beak Blast misses. I go for the second Venom Drench as Beak Blast is getting ready to hit. So then after a little while, I Poison Fang and take a Screech, but Toucannon goes down to Poison. And then Oricorio comes out. I Toxic right away, and then I do a Venom Drench. Next turn, Oricorio's Teeter Dance hits, and I hit myself in Confusion pretty hard. Then Oricorio Air Slash connects. I snap out of Confusion and Venom Drench. Teeter Dance hits again, but Venom Drench breaks through. Air Slash actually connects again, and Muck flinches. Then, after Oricorio gets full restored, I hit myself in Confusion. I decide to go for the Toxic risk. Air Slash misses, Toxic actually breaks through, and Oricorio is poisoned again. Teeter Dance fails because I was already confused, and I continue my Venom Drench strat. Slowly but surely, I dwindle down Oricorio. I hit my Poison Fang, Teeter Dance misses, and Poison takes Oricorio out. One Elite Four member is down. Now for the second Elite Four member. First, Bayonet comes out. I send Muck out. I start to stack up my Minimizes. Shadow Claw connects again, but I go for the second Minimize. Shadow Claw misses this time, and I am fully evasive after my third Minimize. Now Bayonet starts to feign attack, and I get Toxic connected. Slowly but surely, I start to dwindle down Bayonet, and Poison took it out. Then it was elementary from there with the rest of this team. Palisand gave me a little bit of trouble, and it was definitely a risk to use Muck against it, but Venom Drench comes in clutch. Now here is the first Elite Four member where I have to come up with something completely different. Olivia leads with Armaldo, and I lead with Polyswag. After a Crush Claw, I use Brick Break, and after a Speed Tie, Scald connects, taking Armaldo out. Next comes Cradilly. I switch Polyswag for Torkoal, and Cradilly sets up Stealth Rocks. After an Energy Ball, Torkoal uses Flamethrower, takes Cradilly to half, and burns Cradilly. After another Energy Ball, Torkoal uses Flamethrower, doesn't kill, but burn does. Next comes Gigalith. I switch Torkoal into Potpourri with my Crocodile. After getting hit with a Stone Edge, I Crunch, get rid of the Sturdy, and then take a Bulldoze. Then after an Earthquake, I take another Bulldoze. Olivia full restores Gigalith, and I do another Earthquake. I'm still faster than Gigalith after 2 Bulldozes, and Earthquake does take Gigalith down. Next comes Lycanrock. I switch Potpourri out and go into Clefable, almost taking Clefable out, making my turn of using Cosmic Power a complete waste. I withdraw Clefable, go back into Crocodile, Intimidate, take a Stone Edge, then withdraw, and go into Barbonicle. After getting hit with Rock Climb and a crit Stone Edge, Razor Shell takes Lycanrock out. Then comes Nose Pass. I switch back into Polyswag and take an Earth Power. I Protect, and Probopass uses Thunder Wave. I Scald, get the burn, and Thunder Wave misses. After a full heal, Brick Break takes Probopass out. And with that, 3 down. Now it's the final Elite Four fight before the champion. Klefki gets sent out, and I send Potpourri. After a Reflect, I Earthquake. After Klefki sets up spikes, I Scary Face. Then I Protect, and a second spikes was set up. Krookodile takes Klefki out with Earthquake, and out comes Metagross. Krookodile protects, and Metagross uses Hammer Arm. And then Reflect wears off. So I switch into Torkoal. Spikes does a little bit of damage, and Metagross's Hammer Arm does very little damage. After a Zen Headbutt, Torkoal's Flamethrower takes Metagross out. Then comes Dugtrio. First Protect, Dugtrio uses Earthquake. Then I switch back into Potpourri, get Intimidate off, and Earthquake does a little bit of damage. After one more Earthquake, Potpourri uses Scary Face. Then I switch and go into Best Girl. Best Girl takes an Earthquake, and then I switch into Polyswag. Dugtrio uses a Steel Z move, which does very little to Polyswag, and Brick Break finishes Dugtrio off. Now it's Magnezone. So first I Protect, Magnezone Thunderbolts. I switch and go into Trash. Thunderbolt hits pretty hard, and I get paralyzed. After taking one more Thunderbolt, Trash uses Flamethrower, hitting Magnezone and getting rid of Sturdy. Then I go back into Potpourri. Spikes almost takes Potpourri out. I was expecting Thunderbolt, then an Earthquake from Potpourri kills the Magnezone. Next up, Bisharp. Luckily, Krookodile is faster than Bisharp, and Bisharp goes down after one Earthquake. Now, it's time for the championship fight. Hal leads with Alolan Raichu, and I go with Krookodile. First I Protect, and then Raichu uses Focus Blast. Then I switch into Best Girl to take the Focus Blast. Then after PP stalling the Focus Blasts, Krookodile takes Raichu out with one Crunch. Out comes Vaporeon. I Protect from a Hydro Pump, and then I switch into Polyswag. Water Absorb activates after getting hit with Hydro Pump, and Vaporeon goes for Baby Doll Eyes. I Body Slam, and get the Paralysis first try. After another Baby Doll Eyes, I Brick Break. After a Quick Attack, I Brick Break, and then I switch into Krookodile, and then I switch back into Polyswag to get full health with Water Absorb, and also to have full strength back. Muck takes a Gracium Z from Decidueye. That did more than half. After taking a Leaf Blade, I start to do my Minimize strat. One Leaf Blade misses, and I get my second Minimize off. But the next Leaf Blade hits, and I am fully evasive now. Leaf Blade hits again, I live on 2, and I Toxic. This RNG is insane right now. Of course, Leaf Blade hits, and Muck goes down. So I send Torkoal out. After taking a Spirit Shackle, Flamethrower connects, taking Decidueye out. Out comes Tauros. I know an Earthquake is incoming, so I go with Krookodile and get Intimidate off. After a Double Edge miss, I Scary Face to lower Torkoal's speed, and then I Earthquake, which crits, and the recoil from Torkoal's Double Edge takes it out. In comes Crabominal. After an Earthquake, Krookodile goes down to a Dizzy Punch. I send Best Girl in. Best Girl takes a very strong Ice Hammer, living on 10 HP. Moonblast takes Crabominal out though. Very unfortunate. Noivern comes in, I Protect. Try and get a little health back from leftovers. I switch into Torkoal, and Air Slash nearly kills. Then I go into Barbonicle. After taking a Super Fang, Rock Slide hits, taking it down to the red. Of course, How's gonna full restore, and then this Rock Slide misses. Dragon Pulse nearly takes Barbonicle out, but he lives on 1. Next Rock Slide takes it back to the red, full restore. Rock Slide, red, full restore. Rock Slide, red, full restore. It was an insane pattern, but Noivern Dragon Pulses, Barbonicle goes down valiantly, and I send a Polyswag out. After clutching an air slash, Polyswag doesn't flinch, hits the body slam, and Noivern goes down. And like that, I beat my Pokemon Ultra Sun Hardcore Nuzlocke after 12 long attempts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said at the very beginning, this is a very different style than what I have done before. And if you like the videos with these kind of narrations, let me know. Leave a like on the video, comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the Nuzlocke and how you thought I handled this challenging game. Please subscribe if you are not already. That way you know when I post a new video. There are some pretty big plans in the sphere of Pokemon that I am very excited to bring you all. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will catch y'all later. Peace.